Let's begin by imagining, for instance, a direct exchange or barter transaction. We have two people, A and B. A is a butter manufacturer. This young lady, whose name is Rosa, is a butter manufacturer. She has so many kilos of butter that the nth kilo of butter, let's say the 200th kilo she has in the refrigerator, is worth less than, that's what this symbol means, the first shirt or sweater that she does not have. This is merely a subjective comparison. Notice, we're talking about subjective valuations, which permit only comparisons. In other words, the ordinal realm. However, Mark is standing right next to her, and he is a shirt manufacturer. He's right beside her. Well, Mark has a lot of shirts, so the last shirt is worth less to him than... Mark lacks butter, and it turns out he's a big eater. I know that well, because the other day I treated him to dinner, and it cost me a pretty penny. What Mark wants is butter to spread on some nice warm toast tomorrow at breakfast. Right, Mark? Yes. Okay. Well, of course it's clear that the last shirt is worth almost nothing to him, because he specializes in making shirts. It's the law of marginal utility. However, just the thought of butter makes his mouth water. So, Mark values the last shirt he has much less than the first kilo of butter he lacks. Well, under these circumstances, if Rosa is here making butter she hardly values at all, and she needs shirts, and Mark is right beside her, and he's making shirts he hardly values at all, and he needs butter, then clearly, if they have even a shred of entrepreneurial ingenuity right next to each other, they will immediately have a realization. The entrepreneurial light bulb will go on for them. I'll draw it here so you'll remember it. And it's an incandescent bulb too, the kind the Minister for Industry doesn't like. The light bulb goes on. Hey, we'd come out ahead if we'd made an exchange. I'll trade you 1 kilo of butter for a shirt. Is there inequality in opposite subjective valuations, the necessary condition? Yes. Do both parties benefit? Yes. Because Rosa values the shirt very highly, and Mark values the butter very highly. They make an exchange, and as a result of that exchange, both come out ahead. And since it is an exchange without money, it is what we have called a direct exchange or a barter transaction. Now let's look at an example of an indirect exchange. In modern economies, these are the most vital exchanges, since they are the ones that permit economic calculation. Let us suppose a worker is unemployed. You're not unemployed, but let us imagine that you are. What's your name? Javier. Javier has been unemployed for 6 months, and he gets up in the morning and he goes to the newsstand and buys the paper. And he takes a walk in Retiro Park. And he takes the dog out, and he looks at his watch, and the hours drag on endlessly. What should I do? And what should I do this afternoon? There's no end to this. What a pain. Nevertheless, he has to pay bills, and they keep on coming. So, although Javier is a little on the lazy side, admit it, the nth hour of free time, it's one thing to be lazy, and it's quite another to do nothing all day long, day after day. And Javier has been fed up for a month now. The last marginal hour of free time is worth practically nothing to him. He's thinking, hey, isn't there anything you need done? Anything you could ask me to do? To him, that last hour is worth less than the first 20 euros he lacks and needs to pay his bills. And let's suppose that opposite him is an entrepreneur. I've put the word entrepreneur in quotation marks, because right now I'm not referring specifically to someone who exercises pure entrepreneurship, but to a historical ideal type. We'll talk about what that means later. He has an entrepreneurial project, and he has considerable capital at his disposal. So, although the last 20 euros are worth something to him, they are relatively insignificant. However, he does urgently need an hour of labor. So to him, 20 euros are worth much less than the services provided by that specialized worker, in this case, Javier. If they both become aware of this inequality in opposite subjective valuations, that is, if they realize they would benefit by making a deal, The light bulb goes on for them, and they discover the profit opportunity. Profit opportunities tend to be discovered because they act as powerful magnets that attract people to exchanges. That fusion of the law of marginal utility and the law of specialization, as we have seen. The two would immediately agree on the following exchange. I'll pay you 20 euros for an hour of work, and they would both come out ahead. The unemployed worker would have employment and receive 20 euros, and the entrepreneur would receive an hour's work. And since money would be used, this would be an indirect exchange. There is a fundamental difference here, because the indirect exchange involves what is called a historical ratio of exchange, that is, a market price, specifically 20 euros an hour. A market price is any historical ratio of exchange expressed in monetary units. Ratio of exchange in monetary units. And that is the marvel. Dear students, the marvel is that the whole thing starts with subjective valuations which cannot be measured, and yet, in the end, it takes the form of a number, the result of a numerical calculation, 20 euros. And that is an observable historical fact. In a certain place, at a certain moment in history, the price of an hour of work was 20 euros. And this fact can be used by many other entrepreneurs in their numerical computations, either regarding the past, retrospectively, to determine whether they have gained or lost, or the future, prospectively, to gauge, based on the monetary prices which emerge in the market, which alternative is most worthwhile to them. Money and voluntary exchanges make economic calculation possible. They give rise to monetary prices, which are expressed in numbers, and numbers can be used in computation. Mises compares prices to snowflakes. Both are ephemeral. Snowflakes fall to the ground, melt and disappear. Well, prices are all historical ratios of exchange. Once a deal is closed at a certain price, the price is like a snowflake. It becomes a historical fact. Nevertheless, such historical facts, especially if recent, prove invaluable to entrepreneurs by helping guide their action, as we shall see in our next classes.